In this video, we will go over 5 true, scary Home Alone stories. So turn the lights out, enjoy the rain sounds, and try not to lose sleep. I was 15. It was an average night around 9 p.m. Me and my little cousin were at his house. I was babysitting for the night while my mom and aunt were shopping, and my dad and uncle were at the movie theater. So we were sitting there, and I was feeling really strange. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I just kept watching TV with my cousin. The feeling was not going away, so I got up and walked to the back door to lock it. When I came back through the kitchen, I saw what was causing my weird feeling. In the window, there was a very decrepit and homeless-looking man. He was just staring into the window, looking at my cousin. Protective mode was turned on. I pretended like I didn't see the guy, and I told my little cousin that we needed to go upstairs because our parents would be home soon, and they wouldn't want him staying up late. So I went upstairs and put him to bed, knowing darn well that there was a man outside that wanted in. I was about 125 pounds and 5'8" at the time, and I played football for my school. If I remember correctly, I went down the stairs and straight into the kitchen, grabbed one of those meat tenderizing hammers, and turned back to the window where I saw him before. He wasn't there. I ran back to the front door and checked that it was locked. Both the deadbolt and the knob were locked. I ran back upstairs with my meat tenderizer, went into my cousin's room, and sat down in front of the door. He asked me what was I doing, and I said that he did not need to worry about it and that he should keep his head low. I called the cops and then my dad and uncle. The cops would take half an hour, and my dad and uncle were 45 minutes away. Then I heard a window shatter and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. I told my cousin to be calm, hide under the covers, and keep silent. I could hear the guy walking around downstairs. It was horrifying. I gripped that damn meat tenderizer and just waited. About 5 minutes passed, and then I heard the boots walking up the stairs. And at this point, I was having a freaking heart attack. My cousin's door is no more than 10 feet from the stairs. I heard him opening the doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. He walked back down the stairs, and I heard him open the door to the basement. 15 minutes later, the police showed up and burst into the house. It turned out the guy was loose from a mental hospital 1 province away. So I was about 11-ish, maybe 12. I got off the school bus one day and walked home. By the time I got home, I was hot and needed to use the bathroom. Our house was small. Think 1950 style brick home in the U.S. Southeast in a quiet rural neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen, living room. About 1,000 square feet, so not many places for anyone to hide inside the house. I walked in the back door, put my books down, and immediately headed for the bathroom. I'm sitting on the toilet on this nice sunny day, just doing my thing, and I hear my name being called from outside the door, and the voice sounded as if it came from the end of the short hallway that runs down the middle of the house. The voice called me by my childhood nickname, and it sounded like my mom. Only my mom was at work, and I was completely alone in the house. I froze. I didn't know what to do, as I was absolutely sure there was a burglar in the house. I finished as quickly as possible and went over to the bathroom door, sure that when I opened it, I was going to find some woman in the house. I looked to my right and to my left, and there was nobody there. I got out of the house and waited outside for my mom to get home. When she pulled into the driveway, I told her what had happened, and she checked the house, and there was nobody there. She said I was hearing things and it was all in my mind. Maybe it was. Then I was in the 7th or 8th grade. I was home alone in the same house. My parents were gone for the day and it was the weekend. It was cold and dreary outside, so I decided to do some homework. I sat down at the kitchen table and laid out my books and notebook. To my left in the small house was the hallway. If you walk down the hallway, on the right side is the bathroom and then my bedroom. On the left side of the hallway is my parents' bedroom and my brother's bedroom. That's it. Small house. My brother worked all the time and was a lot older, so he wasn't home either. The house was dead silent. The house had that midday, low-light, hazy, dreary lighting effect due to the weather and not a lot of windows, which added to the peacefulness of the day. I was working on my homework and everything was fine. I was enjoying my time alone. From the end of the hallway to the left, a woman said my name. Again, it was my childhood nickname, and it was clear as day. My blood ran cold and I froze. I looked to my left to the end of the hallway and saw nothing. My jacket was nearby, and in one swift movement I quietly closed my books, grabbed my jacket as my heart was in my throat. I started to cry with fear, and I headed directly out the back door without looking back. I went to the standalone garage out back and sat on my dad's red lawnmower and watched the back door to see if anyone came out of the house, although it would be impossible for anyone to be in the house other than myself because my family were the only people who had been home all day. I sat there shivering for hours until my parents got home. As soon as they pulled into the driveway, I met them and told them what had happened. They checked the house and found nothing, of course, saying it was just my imagination. My mother still lives in the house, and I live with her to help her now that she's elderly. My father died several years ago. Mom always heard Dad calling her name from the living room and talking about it often. She would go into the living room to ask him what he wanted, but he hadn't called her name, and she still says it's her imagination. I lived in a heavily haunted house. It was a large house and I had 9 roommates. So there was always the sound of people walking around on different levels, opening and closing doors and talking. It wasn't until I was alone in the house for the first time that I noticed you could hear walking around, opening and closing doors and talking, even when there was no one there. I went down to the basement to play the piano and had a very strong feeling of someone telling me to F off. For someone who has never experienced this, just imagine you are in a room with someone who is angry as hell and is screaming and throwing things at the walls. Then just subtract the sound and images. The feeling is the same. I thought I should say something out loud, so I said, "I'm sorry I bothered you. I'll leave now because I respect you as a roommate." It was when I said the word roommate that things became very calm. I went back upstairs to my room feeling very shaky. Maybe I should mention this was probably 2 or 3 a.m., so getting out of the house and going somewhere was not an option. I was sitting in bed for about 20 minutes when I saw something on my wall. The best way to describe it would be to say that it wasn't visible really, but looked sort of like when the predator in Predator has its invisibility turned on. It was shaped like a 3-foot long salamander. It crawled down my wall and up onto my bed, then disappeared. That's it. It was gone. Was that in my imagination? This wasn't at home, but in a dorm where my classmates and I stayed during one of our internship months. Our other schoolmates who stayed there ahead of us told us some scary stories, but I didn't really mind them. During our first night there, my roommate decided to go with our professor somewhere, so I was left alone for the whole night. I made sure to lock the door and even kept the lights on before sleeping. I suddenly woke up, but I wasn't completely awake. I was still half asleep when I checked the time on my phone and realized it was only 2 a.m. I was about to cover myself with a blanket, my eyes still struggling to open fully, when a really dark shadow shaped like a person came gliding or walking from the door. I didn't really see the feet, so I couldn't say as I didn't hear the door open, and I fell completely asleep. When the morning came, I was surprised to discover that the door was unlocked, since I was sure that I had locked the door the night before. I checked everything and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. I went to the dining area and chatted with my classmates. I completely forgot about it and thought it was just a dream. When my roommate arrived with our professor, I asked her if she had to come back last night, maybe to get some stuff or something. She swore she didn't. I got goosebumps and told my classmates about it. Then we all just shrugged it off and rationalized it with the fact that I was half asleep and having some kind of dream. But that wouldn't explain the unlocked door though. Our previous schoolmates who were there previously even had a scary experience. I told one of my friends who was there previously about my experience, and she said that one night her roommate, still half asleep, suddenly came over to her bed and asked her to sleep beside her for the night because there was someone standing over her bed and asking her to go away and move to my friend's bed. There was no one else in the room. Was it also kind of a dream? Maybe. So do you enjoy being home alone or need someone to stay with you? I always liked being alone, but do admit I am afraid of the dark still, even at my age. Let me know your scary Home Alone stories in the comments.